Hello there, my name is Dexter Vallis. I am the CEO and managing consultant of Valma International. We are a consultancy based in Mumbai, India. I am also the author of 6 books which I have written during the lockdown between May and July 2020. And the purpose of this video is to introduce these books to you a little more personally, one by one. Now you'll see 5 of these 6 books behind me. I first began with The Butterfly Blueprint, which was in May, and followed it up with At the Steering Wheel of Life. Then we had something called, interestingly, The Code of the Road, which is based on my experiences of driving on Mumbai roads in the heavy traffic and navigating traffic. So we talk about life, roads, and the traffic of life in this book. A rather interesting take on it. I hope you do get to read it. Which reminded me that I needed to write about something that drives us every day, which is the engine of provision, along with the engine of purpose. And these two twin engines connect and fire the human spirit to connect to soul, so to say. So Connected to Soul was the 4th book. The 5th book was based on a New Year greeting I sent forth. It's called Flawed Yet Precious, because we tend to obsess with what the flaws are in our lives and in other people's lives. But this book is based on the fact that despite the flaws, or because of the flaws, we are so much more precious. Today I want to do a little bit of reading from my 6th book, which is called Leadership Imperatives, Living and Leading Beyond 2020. While all these books deal with the crisis that we are in and living through in some way or the other, and metaphorically speaking, we have used the butterfly, the steering wheel, the road, the connection to soul, and how flawed and precious we are as human jewels with the human spirit. This book, Leadership Imperatives, deals a little more directly with the current situation. Now, this book is divided or written across 3 parts. Part 1 is about the changed landscape, where there are 3 chapters talking about 3 different kinds of landscape, and those landscape are about personal life, the changed landscape of education and career, and the landscape of work life. We then move on to part 2, which is about 3 new scripts for success. This is clarity of now, competence for tomorrow, and commitment to change. Part 3 is about 4 new leadership imperatives, which talks about the warrior leader being the business crisis centered leadership. We then talk about the digital leader, which is technology centered leadership. The 3rd new imperative is the EQ savvy leader, which is heart centered leadership. And the 4th leadership paradigm is the ignited leader, which is spirit centered leadership. Not that these are new to the world, but they become critically important for us to live and lead our lives and the lives of other people beyond the crisis of 2020, the one that we are still living through. And we ended up with about what really matters to our life, which is a leader's legacy, and that's something that I'm going to try and read to you today. So this book begins with an introduction which talks, as we've said, about the landscape of the world. And here goes. The landscape of the world has changed dramatically since COVID-19 hit our lives. This is perhaps the most metamorphic transformation the world has ever witnessed in our lifetime, and I'm sure you'll agree. Stories have been told about these days throughout history, but these stories are going to be so resonant because we are part of these stories. We are living this history, our story. They are about how we stood up and were counted, because we are going into the future, right? How lives and livelihood were protected and promoted. How business design and strategy evolved to reshape and reframe the future, and how leadership emerged from the darkness of the lockdown to shine brightly in the sky. Like the sun, burning away inequalities and iniquities of the past, and growing a planet of people determined to survive, thrive, and flourish together. This book is about how that can happen. These are the pages which describe the making of the history of our new earth. Let's begin this book by taking a look at the elements of this landscape so that we can understand the change. Then move on to the 3 new scripts of success, and finally to the 4 new leadership imperatives. As you read, you will find that this book is not based on conventional, straight-jacketed management wisdom. You may even find yourself challenged to look through the lens I am offering. My purpose is to do exactly that. Through this book, I am offering another view, one emerging from my own experiences and emotions of being prime witness, as you are, to this churn in managing the new normal, or as it is being called, the next normal of life beyond 2020. So this is more of a life primer of leadership in life and at work. Nothing is as imperative as you enabling yourself to lead the charge of life. Put the wisdom from these pages which follow along with your own and draw up a dynamic blueprint for yourself and those whose lives you influence. Right, and going to what I would like to read to you about what really matters is this. It's the end of the book, really, and I thought I'd bring the end right up front to you so you know the note on which I want this book to end and on which it does end. This is called A Leader's Legacy, and as Stanley Kunitz says beautifully, I can hardly wait for tomorrow. It means a new life for me each and every day. Isn't that true? The true legacy of leadership is building a community of leaders, especially in the times of today and the abnormal normal. Our worldscape has been sharply redefined in the pre-2020 and post-2020 divide. In fact, while we know that 2020 has cut the world into an almost BC AD schism, we still do not know what the post-2020 holds in store for humanity. Organizations cannot survive in such times by casting leadership into a governing wheelhouse, while the rest of the organization waits with bated breath to follow the lead. The times we are in are far too overwhelming and widespread across every element of life for leadership to be restricted to just a few at the top. The new landscape of collaborative partnerships, co-creation of collective dreams, owning the job and paradigms of transformative change leadership, as you would have just read in the book or you will read in the book, are part of a leadership redesign, where all elements at all levels of the organization redefine their roles to participate in leadership. What really matters is that we must create every day a better, nobler, happier world than the one that existed the previous day. An equitable world of equality across race, creed, color, religious beliefs, life choices, and organizational hierarchy. Everyone must have the right and dignity to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. Everyone must live in the light, not in the shadows. Leaders can and must influence that. A whole community of leaders can actually make it happen because leaders own the business. And the business of life is the biggest business we could ever be tasked to lead. As has been discovered right through the lockdown on life, almost nothing else matters more than life itself. Yet to sustain that life, we have got to get busy with the means to life. We no longer can just live off the land as our caveman ancestors did. We have developed and are attached and even addicted to the lifestyles we have created for ourselves. While we may have many opinions on this, the fact remains that our creations and inventions have taken us to enormously advanced levels of life and lifestyle. Now that we are here, we cannot suddenly turn off this life support, nor can we learn how to live without it, simply because we have evolved and transformed beyond what we could imagine possible. 50 years ago, I was 5 years old. In these 50 years, our world has evolved meteorically from tuning into very few broadcasting stations on the radio. The world has jumped to ushering in an explosion of the super connected Internet of Things. Television channels by the thousands are beamed across space directly into a variety of devices. Life is connected right across the globe in micro moments via satellites. Telephones routinely come with video cameras, complex office software, and gigantic storage carried in pockets or worn on the wrist. Medicine and medical devices serve to extend life way beyond the scourge of disease and even terminal affliction. Today, the unexplored universe and space is just another backyard of mankind. It's not just planes that fly with hundreds of people on board and tons of cargo, but also thousands of satellites in space whiz above our heads every day. Supercomputers, software programs driving almost every conceivable device, digital information technology and artificial intelligence form our everyday conversations. Should we give all that up? Just because we didn't spend the time to learn how to also live in compatibility with such advanced ways of life? Obviously, no. We must focus on these leadership imperatives to live and lead life beyond 2020. Though we must remember the origin of the life we wish to lead, it literally began with the very first step we took. Vulnerable, unsure, fearful, and yet filled with anticipation, discovery, and joy. That became most part of our lives as we grew into our dreams. Yet, along the way, we have forgotten most of what life truly meant to us. Before the pandemic hit us full in the face and knocked us sprawling. All we have to do is learn about that life now, in the time we have been given. The universe has paused life so that we can catch up. Let's not lose the opportunity. As leaders of our lives and influencers of the world, the goal is to bring the vision of the future every day to work and take it home every day to our families and communities. The imperative is to build a thriving new earth, one which matters to each one of us. For that, we need to tell ourselves in ways we shall never forget what really matters. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to that. I hope this may urge you to buy the book and read more and tell us what is your opinion about the future of life beyond 2020. Bye for now. See you soon.